Hello, everybody. My name is Kenton DeYoung, and I'm sitting here with my co-host, Dylan Furman.
Yellow.
And this is a Patreon exclusive episode of Unsolved Canadian Mysteries. Kind of new at these. What do we say now?
Oh, God, what now? The Tom Thompson one was the Patreon.
Yeah.
Which, if you saw that one,
Thank you.
thank you. But now you're here for the second one.
Yes, another episode, another exclusive episode. So thank you for subscribing and supporting the channel and the podcast.
So good.
Dylan has a new rum,
Whiskey.
whiskey.
Oh.
So Dylan, how you been?
I've been good, Kenton, just drinking and editing videos and drinking.
Good.
How about you?
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Doing good. I got a haircut.
Yeah, you look dashing.
I saw how you used to look in high school.
You look like He-Man.
It's a new one. Sometimes
He-Man.
people say I look like that guy from ABBA.
ABBA?
The once, yeah,
Mm.
the guy, not
The
the
guy.
not the
Yeah.
not the women.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What was the other podcast we talked about?
Oh, like just?
Yeah.
That last one? The Vancouver...
Yes. Nick and
Market, yeah.
Lisa Massey. That's right.
Yeah.
Cool. Be sure to check that one out too. It's really good. I enjoyed that one. It was a good missing person one.
Missing persons.
Persons, plural. So we're doing a thing now where it's like we do one true crime, one paranormal, one true crime, one paranormal, and you guys happen to get the paranormal one on the exclusive podcast.
Yes.
Yep. So are you ready for tonight's story?
I'm pretty ready, Kenton. I've been thinking about this for the past 20 minutes.
So this one is kind of cool because we have 3 different sources of it. Unlike the Baldoon mystery, where it was like secondhand sources from like people who live there, we have the initial newspaper account from 1899. Then we have a follow-up newspaper account from 1957. Then we have another newspaper account from 2014.
Quite the spread.
So it's like 150 years of this story.
Journalism.
Yeah. We'll talk about what happened in 1899, and then we'll kind of go through the story, and I'll kind of interject when the new stories kind of intermingle into it.
Okay.
So we'll start the story off. It was September 14th, 1899, and they're talking about the Dagg family. They live in a small cottage 11 kilometers from Shawville, Quebec.
Dagg nabbit.
The Dagg family was George Dagg, that's the husband. There was Susan Dagg, the wife.
And his son, George.
What was that where they had the same names?
All of them.
There was Johnny and there was Mary, their kids, but the most important child in the house was Dinah. Dinah was 11-year-old girl who was an adopted child from Scotland.
Mm.
So that's the Dagg family, 5 of them. On September 14th, 1899, Susan, the wife, gives George, the husband, a $2 and a $5 bill. And Shawville is in Quebec, but it's kind of close to the Ontario border. Just give some context of location. For people who don't know where Shawville is, I think Shawville still exists, unlike Baldoon.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Also still exists Cabbage Town.
The monster, maybe not, but
Maybe not. He's
Maybe
probably dead.
yeah. So the husband gives the wife a $2 and a $5 bill, which to now these days is like $150 worth. Okay.
That is a steep allowance.
Yeah. Well, it was just money. They had savings. They put the money in the drawer of their dresser. The next day, the 15th, they have another boy living with them named Dean, and Dean is an adopted. No, not adopted.
Kenton,
Yes,
did you say there's 2 kids? One's name is Dean,
Dean,
and what's the girl's name?
Dina.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize they had the similar name.
Okay, no, go ahead. Kenton.
Okay.
This story just sounds so real already.
Okay. Oh, it gets nuts. Dean walks. So Dean is like an orphan that's living with the family. I misspoke. Said he's adopted. He's not adopted. He's living with them. I think he's kind of trying to get adopted, kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
He walks up to George and has the $5 bill and says, "Hey, I found this on the kitchen floor." And George is like, "You found a $5 bill on the kitchen floor," which at the time was quite a lot of money, right?
Right.
And he looks at the bill. He's like, "This looks a lot like the $5 bill I gave to my wife to put in the drawer yesterday."
Right.
So they go into the house, or they go into the bedroom, and they open the drawer, and look, the money's missing. So he says to Dean, "Did you take the money?" And Dean said, "No, I didn't take the money." Right? Like, Dean's a kid, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't believe Dean. So he tears apart Dean's bed, and out flutters the $2 bill.
Dean!
And he says, "Dean, Like, did you take this? And he's like, no, I had nothing to do with it. The article says he gave Dinah a tongue lashing. I mean, that probably beat the kid, but they didn't want to.
I thought you were like saying he like licked the kid.
Ew. Afterwards, a couple more things started happening around the house that were a little more sinister. Someone was knocking over the buckets of milk, butter was disappearing from the jars, and somebody went to the outhouse and brought in some waste and smeared it all over the kitchen.
Okay, that's okay. Well,
you can kind of the milk. Well, that could just be an animal, right? But the smearing of the waste is a little more serious.
Who smears poop?
Yeah,
weirdos.
So Dean is the suspect, right?
Yeah.
Because he got a tongue lashing for theft. So they took him to the local jail and they kind of put him away. I think it was more like a teach this kid a lesson kind of thing.
Oh my God.
So while he's in the cell, you're thinking, I didn't do anything. More stuff starts happening at the farm. And he's kind of cleared of the crimes because he's in prison.
Yeah.
And he has a choice because, he's like an orphan who's temporarily living there. If he wants to go back, he says, no, I don't want to go back to that place.
Yeah.
To the Dagg residence.
Screw that. They don't trust him.
Yeah.
But anyway, just for the record, nothing makes me want to smear poop more than a good tongue lashing.
Dean's no longer in the picture. He doesn't come back to the whole story. But after he leaves, these little fires start getting lit around the house.
Okay.
Little things start bursting into flame.
This is nuts.
Like, there's maybe one fire, or maybe there's 2 fires, maybe there's 3 fires. At one point, there were 8 fires all at the same time. They actually had lost a pair of curtains to one of these fires. This is very similar to the Baldoon mystery. The Baldoons, they lost the house to a fire. In this case, they only lost some curtains to the fire.
Right.
At the same time, this is where there's a lot more parallels between the 2 stories. Rocks start hitting the outside of the building and start smashing the windows.
And it was all done by a goose.
Well, there's no. So there was the goose in the Baldoon mystery. So in this one,
it's a duck.
George runs outside to find out who's doing it, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe they learned, listen, look for the black goose, right? And he's looking around. He sees nothing. He hides behind a tree stump. He sees nothing. He hides behind a shed. Sees nothing. But he can see the windows smashing.
Really?
Yeah. And he doesn't know what's going on. And eventually, I think his wife just tells him just to come on in because it's still happening. It's not, he can't fix it from out there. So whatever was causing this then seemed to target Dinah in particular, the orphaned adopted girl from Scotland. Okay. Not the kid who didn't want part of it. This is the girl. It targets Dinah, and at one point it pulls Dinah's ponytail and she screams. And they go run and they check and they take a look, and it wasn't that it was pulled, it was cut. Like with a blade. Someone tried to cut off her ponytail.
If someone cut my hair, that's another reason I'd start smearing poop.
Okay. Dinah and her grandmother are in the house making a bed. And the grandmother turns her back and Dinah screams and points and says, oh, grandma, look, there's a black shadow holding up the bed sheets. So the grandma turns and looks and doesn't see anything, but does see the bed sheets up in the air. So then she hands, I don't know why the grandma had this, hands Dinah a bullwhip and says, strike him, child, take courage and strike him hard.
Wow.
So Dinah, who's like 11, takes a bullwhip and starts whipping this shadow entity, right? No one else can see it but her. But the sound of the whip cracking, the sound, brings in more family members. It brings in who else is in the house and a family friend, and they all see her whipping nothing. And they think Dinah's lost her mind or something, right? Right. Until they hear it impact something, and they hear a pig squeal, and then it disappears.
Okay, that's the worst sound. In horror movies too, I find any sort of I see something is worse from old people and young people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the worst when a child tells you something because you're like, this kid's messed up. Or if it's an old person, you're like, this old person has lost their mind.
There's that one movie where the 2 kids go live with their grandparents.
Yeah.
And they're like, grandma and grandpa are acting kind of weird.
Right.
And they're like, oh, you're just being silly. But it's like grandma and grandpa are like
demented.
And it was like some people from the asylum had came in and killed them and was living there instead. Yeah. There was a great movie like that.
Yeah.
And it was like, everyone believed the kids. And the kids like, oh, like just grandma and grandpa being silly old people. From that point on, the entity, the spirit, got a lot more aggressive.
Wow. Well, yeah, you whipped it.
Yeah, right? It would tear apart beds, it would empty rocking chairs, and it would play the harmonica through all hours of the night.
Not good either. play horribly.
At one point, they also, when they came home, they found a note on the wall with a knife through it. And written on the note was, "You gave me 15 cuts." And that's probably directed toward Dinah and her whip.
Oh, okay.
So now it's implied this spirit has some sorts of intelligence.
Yeah.
It can communicate, and it's not happy. So the spirit then begins to speak to the family from the shadows of that house. It has this old, raspy voice, and it insults them and calls them names. And the newspaper account says it used barnyard language, which...
Oh, you're such a pig. Moo, motherfucker, moo.
Like that?
I suppose we can swear on the Patreon exclusive.
Do you want me to take it off or
No,
keep it on?
leave it. Let's leave it. They're paying for
Moo,
this.
you motherfucker.
Is that barnyard talk?
I think so. I think so.
Cluck like a chicken, bitch.
Okay, so it's getting pretty bad at the Dagg residence. Reverend Horner comes in the house to bless it. As he's praying with his Bible open on his hands, he opens his eyes and the Bible's gone. They then go look around the house for it, and they find it inside of the oven.
Okay, that's bad. That's not good.
So he takes the Bible, says his blessing, and leaves. And the family said they could hear the entity from the shadows laughing as he left.
What a fool.
Oh, this shadow guy, he gets rank. He's just so funny. All right.
Kenton, what the heck? This isn't a comedy routine.
He's so mean.
This is a poltergeist individual.
It just gets worse.
All right.
Okay. All right. The next part of the story is actually the reason I wanted to do the story with you, because I was like, oh, this is so good. You will love this part.
Okay.
All right. So George would then go seek out the help of a folk healer in Ontario. And this folk healer was nicknamed the Witch of Plum Hollow.
Wow, what a great name.
I know, right? Great. And to have an actual name to somebody, not just a random individual, right? Like, we can actually do research on who the Witch of Plum Hollow is. So, he had to go quite a couple hours away to find the Witch of Plum Hollow, who's this old woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was a woman who's like the seventh child she has second sight, all this stuff. He sits down with the Witch of Plum Hollow, and she says, the entity who's haunting your house was brought on by a woman who is a widow with 2 sons, and they have a vendetta against your adopted daughter, Dinah.
She's adopted too?
Dinah, yes, from Scotland.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. I know, there's a lot of kids. So when I was reading this, I'm like, hey, that sounds a whole lot like the girl from the Baldoon mystery. Right? They search out this girl, and she says, oh, it's your neighbor who has a vendetta against you. It's an old woman, right? I'm thinking, the Baldoon mystery happened in 1830. And this is in 1899. I think it's the same person. I think the Witch of Plum Hollow is the same girl as in the Baldoon mystery. The location makes sense. The time makes sense. What do you think?
I think you need a fancy name so that people from 100 years from now can be like, oh, it's the warlock.
I was going to say the warlock.
The warlock of Back Street. I don't know.
I like it. The warlock of Back Street. That should be a shirt. George gets back home and tells Susan, his wife, what he learned. They think about for a second, who could this person be that the Witch of Plum Hollow described? And realize, oh, it's their neighbor, Mrs. Wallace. She fits the description to a T. She's a widow, has 2 sons just next door. So they go and ask Mrs. Wallace what's going on. And you can imagine that conversation, right? Like, hey, we got something going on in our house. We think it's a demon or a spirit. And we went to go see the Witch of Plum Hollow, and she said it's you guys with a vendetta against our adopted daughter. Like,
right.
You can only imagine Mrs. Wallace's face, right?
Right.
It's like, what are you talking about? So they asked Mrs. Wallace, is something going on? And she said, I don't know what you're talking about. Absolutely clueless. But she says, I have nothing against you or your family. Like, I just live next door. So how would I come and join you guys for supper, and we kind of can prove it, right?
Yes. Okay.
So she comes and they have a nice supper, and she leaves.
That's bullshit. I want some stuff happening while she's there. I bet the guy's like, oh, are you sure you want to go right now, or you want to just stay a little longer? No, I have to get home. And then as soon as she leaves, what?
Okay, so, like, you're right, okay? Susan, the mother, was not happy with this, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, what a show was that, right? Like, this thing is still haunting the house. That was her only lead. And now you just act like it's all chill, Mrs. Wallace? Like, what's going on? So, the source says somebody told Mrs. Dagg. That's Susan Dagg.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say who told her this, right? And this is testimony from the 1957 article, so 60 years later. Someone told Mrs. Dagg that to find out who the witch is and to draw out the witch, you have to find a black goat, kill it, drain its blood into a pot, put some nails in the pot.
Why not?
I don't think they had to be like new nails. I don't think that's really relevant. And I don't think like this the head
The
of it.
rustier, the better.
I don't know. That wasn't specific. The recipe wasn't very specific on
Sounds pretty specific to me.
many
Kenton.
nails and blood. Anyway, and then you're supposed to boil it. And as it's boiling, it'll draw out the witch. So Mrs. Dagg does this. She kills a goat, puts the blood in the pot, puts the nails in the pot, starts boiling the blood in the kitchen, and looks out her window and sees Mrs. Wallace come out of the house. And she's walking towards across the yard. She gets to the fence line, and there's a knock on the door. And it's the Reverend. So they have to hide their boiling blood.
Yeah, no crap. Like, oh, wow, what a surprise.
So then they don't get any conclusion as if Mrs. Wallace was actually coming to them because of the blood or because of something else. At this point, Mary and Johnny, those are the two actual kids of the Dagg family, would begin seeing this creature as well, not just Dinah now. And they would either see it as being a tall, thin man or a creature with a cow's head, horns, tail, and cloven feet. Like, really nice, right?
That's good.
I think even one of the articles referenced it, said they look like a minotaur standing there.
This is exactly the describing you just said, so yeah.
At one point, one of Dinah's encounters with it, she said she walked in the kitchen and she saw the minotaur standing by the oven, with the oven door open. He was pouring salt into the oven and asked Dinah if she wanted to go to hell with him. All right, spooky stuff. So on November 14th, 1899, Percy Woodcock knocks on the doors of the Dagg residence.
What a name.
I know. Great names in this story.
My name is Percy Woodcock.
He was a painter and a journalist.
I am a painter and a journalist.
He had heard about the Dagg mystery and wanted to come and see it for himself.
I'm not gonna
Okay,
get that part.
that's fine. It's all good. Everyone knows that Dinah is like the target of these attacks, and he wants to see Dinah and kind of figure out what's going on. But Dinah's at a friend's house for the night and won't be back till tomorrow.
Sleepover.
So they told Percy, come back tomorrow. Percy comes back the next day. This day he's gonna see the demon, right? And he gets to the house and he introduces himself again and says, oh yeah, Dinah's in the backyard. So he goes to the backyard and sees Dinah and asks Dinah, have you seen this spirit today? And Dinah says, yeah, actually, it's in the shed if you want to go talk to it.
Okay, see, I'm just leaving my family. I'm abandoning them.
Percy goes to the shed and looks in it and sees nobody, sees nothing, and says, are you there, mister? And the voice replied back from the shed, from the shadows. And Woodcock couldn't see anybody, but it sounded like they were like 5 feet away from them, like not like an arm's reach away from them, right? So Woodcock says, who are you? Or what are you? And the voice says, I'm the devil. I have you in my clutches. Get out of here or I'll break your neck. The Woodcock said, that doesn't scare me like it scares the kids. Why don't you stop with the foul language? And the entity begins swearing and calling him names instead, as it does. So Woodcock then begins to have a discussion with the spirit to try and figure out who it is. And it goes back and forth. They actually talk for quite some time. And he learned a lot about who the entity is. According to the spirit, the Daggs had done nothing wrong. And it was simply a spirit of mischief trying to cause trouble and have fun. It didn't have any anger or malice towards anybody except Dinah and now Percy Woodcock, because he annoyed him. So Percy's like thinking, where is this voice coming from? He thinks, oh, maybe it's Dinah being like a ventriloquist. Okay.
Yep.
So they get Dinah over there and they give her a glass of water and they ask the spirit questions and see if Dinah can talk, if it can talk with Dinah's mouth full of water. And it does. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obvious.
No shit. Percy Woodcock.
Percy gets another idea. He gets a pencil and a paper and puts it in the shed and asks the creature, the spirit, to write something. So he watches the pencil lift up, write on the paper, and lay back down.
Okay.
So Percy reaches in, takes the paper, looks at it, puts it back, and says, I asked you to write something decent. So obviously he wrote something profane on that piece of paper. He says, I'll steal your pencil. And the pencil was flying across the shed. Percy's like, fine, I'm done talking in the shed. Let's go to the house. So he goes to the house, and the spirit's not in the house. Talking some more. And they continue the conversation. Goes on for a couple of hours. And people come in, they see it, the family, friends, neighbors, they all come in, and plenty of witnesses to this conversation.
That's crazy.
And they asked the spirit why it's bothering the Dagg family. And the spirit said that Mrs. Wallace and her boys, the neighbor, right, were playing with a spell book and using black magic to get to terrorize Dinah. And they threw the book in the swamp when they were done. So they go and get Mrs. Wallace again, bring her back to the house, and they ask her. And again, she says, no, we had nothing to do with this. And then she, quote, berates the spirit for saying these things about her family. And then she leaves. So then they ask the spirit again, who are you? Why are you here? And the spirit says that he's the spirit of a man who died on the property 20 years prior. And they ask him, well, can you tell us your name? And he says he'll tell them their name. This is the dad and a family friend. If they promise not to share it, and if they share it, spirit will kill them. So, okay, so the spirit, I think, whispers it to them, and they know the identity of who it is. I think he told Percy and the dad. I think that's the person they told. Percy continues talking to them, and they come to an agreement that the spirit will leave the family alone under one condition, and that condition that he'll do it tomorrow. He'll leave tomorrow. And that's why can't you just, leave today? Like, are you busy or something? You can't just stop. It's like a quota you have to reach. And has to be exactly 3 months of haunting or else, No, it doesn't say that. So
yeah. Oh, I thought you were being serious.
No, I'm sorry. No. The spirit says he'll leave tomorrow, and it's going to be tomorrow because he wants an audience. He wants to make a grand exit. Pompous little spirit, right? So the next day, several things happened. One of them was a lot of people came to the house, and Percy got them to sign a letter saying who they were, what happened here, the testimony was accurate, everything happened, and he got 17 signatures down. And the newspaper count from 1899 actually has the 17 names down. And he says he could have got more, but he felt 17 was enough. And that's fair. 17 people all say this thing happened. That's a pretty good amount of people, right? Pretty good testimony. Then the spirit appeared, came back. But this time it was a little more nicer, a little more kind. And they asked it, like, why'd you stop being so mean to us? Because it was mean to everybody before. And it said, I'm an angel from heaven, sent from God to drive away that fellow. So weird. It's strange, right?
Yeah.
The spirit then requested 3 people come to the house. 3 unbelievers. 2 of which were priests, and 1 of which was the editor of local newspaper.
Okay.
The priests couldn't come. They were busy, and the editor wasn't around. So instead, Reverend Bell comes into the house. They managed to bring a reverend in. And the moment Reverend Bell walks in, the spirit greets him, yells him, Reverend Bell! And he ignores the spirit. So he yells again, Reverend Bell! And he says, I don't talk to evil spirits. So he begins blessing and praying, and the spirit is mocking him. He's praying alongside him, copying him, says that he would be a better reverend than the reverend would be, and that the reverend should give up on this and just go back to photography.
That's funny.
So the reverend finishes his prayer and leaves, and then the spirit turns back to the people who are gathered there, right? The spirit then says he's going to speak in his normal voice, the voice of an angel, instead of the fake voice he's been using this whole time. When asked why he didn't just use his normal voice originally, it said that people would think it was Dinah's voice instead of an angel's voice. So that's why he used the gravelly old man's voice. So then he changes his voice, and it becomes the voice of an angel. And it starts singing songs and prayer, and it's so beautiful. People in the house start to cry. And he sings for an hour, and they ask him to sing some more. He sings another hour, sings for a couple of hours. And then he finally says, this is enough. I'm going to go now, bid you all farewell. Except for Dinah and the kids, I'm going to come back and talk to them tomorrow. And says goodbye and vanishes. Okay, that was a weird twist. Yeah.
Uber weird, Kenton.
So next morning, Percy shows up, sits with George and a family friend, and they sit in the kitchen talking about what happened the day before. And the kids come running from outside. They said they had just seen the spirit, who was an angel. It was dressed in long white clothes, had long white hair, had flowers and shiny things on it. Said that he twirled the kids around and said nice things to them and said goodbye and floated up into the sky. It's a nice ending.
Very.
And the article ends with an agreement between the father and Percy. The agreement was, if this thing comes back, because like it's very uncomfortable how this thing left, right?
Yeah.
If this thing comes back, we're going to send you a letter, Percy, and come get Dinah and get her out of this house. Is this thing after Dinah? Is it after the house? Like, we really don't have answers. So if this thing comes back, come get Dinah and get her out of here.
Okay.
Okay. In the 1957 article, like it's where the 1899 one ends.
Okay.
In the 57 article.
Such a weird way to end. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, I agree. Thomas Dagg. Thomas is a son who wasn't yet born in this time. They interviewed Thomas Dagg. And Thomas said when he was alive, Dinah went to go spend some time with her uncle out in a different community. And while she was out with the uncle, there was a knock on the door. And it was a man that they didn't recognize. But he had a note from Dinah's dad to come and get her. Dinah went with the guy and they disappeared. So I'm thinking, was that Percy? Because the uncle wouldn't know Percy, right? Was that somebody else? Why would they disappear and why would they get a letter from the dad if it wasn't someone that they knew, that the Daggs knew, right? But they say after this happened, the curse, the spirit ended, right? There's another story from the 1957 article that said that there was another girl on the property, another daughter named Lisa June. The haunting only stopped after Lisa got in a tragic accident and got caught up. Her dress got caught on a pot of boiling soap.
Yeah.
And she got burned and she died. And that's what lifted the curse. So in 1957, they interviewed the family that was living in the house and said, hey, okay, like this is what's going on. This is the story of the house and the people that lived here. Do you have any kind of hauntings that have happened here? They said, no, it's been a pretty nice house. Like, it's been chill.
I haven't really noticed anything.
No, it's all good. So in 2014, the same newspaper, this has been Ottawa Citizen all 3 times. Ottawa Citizen goes out again.
Wow, they're thorough.
They follow up on these things. They ask the new family who's been living there, have you encountered anything paranormal? And they say that their kids have seen the spirit of a girl in the kitchen and up and down the stairs. And they've heard footsteps coming up to the doorway and then walking away. And sometimes they hear aggressive scratching in the attic, but no profanity. It might not be the demon. It's a weird ending to the story because we don't have any conclusions and no real, like, this is the end, right?
I guess that's what makes it a unsolved mystery.
What are your thoughts?
The main thought is it was a very altogether story until all of a sudden this spirit that swears and is gross and curses tells the name and then becomes a nice person that doesn't do these things.
Yes. And to me, it's like the spirit's all good and nice.
Yeah.
Then it makes fun of the priest and then goes back to being an angel.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm not that guy anymore, and screw you, and now we're all good.
Yeah.
To me, it seems like it's like a red herring. Like, oh, I'm a good guy now, you know? And I was using my fake voice.
No, it's a mischief thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's deliberate manipulation. That's what I think it is.
Yeah.
But then at the ending, to have the spirit say goodbye to the kids, it would be that would just be an extra, icing on the cake. You could just say goodbye at the house and then end it. You don't have to come back and say goodbye to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's weird like that because it felt like, why did the spirit come back again to say goodbye if it was meaning to be evil?
Yeah. I don't even know how a newspaper reports on this.
3 times.
3 times.
3 times. 3 times I covered this story.
It's just so many details and so many witnesses for that first bit.
Yeah, actually, in the second 1957 article, they interviewed some people who were there.
Yeah.
And this one guy says that when he was there as a kid, right, he heard the voice talking in one of the rooms and poked his head in, and the spirit, demon, whatever, threw a potato at him and told him to get out, called him by name. So there were a lot of witnesses to this. I appreciate Percy trying to debunk it with the water thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was Dinah. I think if there's anything that makes sense, maybe it was the Walls family, and they were just denying that they were involved.
Right.
They found some way to end it or something like that. It just has a weird ending, and I almost like the ending more where Lisa June gets burned in the soap, because at least it kind of concludes it.
Yeah.
Awful that happened.
Very.
But at least then it connects to the current hauntings of the woman and the little girl in the dress. Because to have Dinah disappear and then to haunt the house implies something happened in between. So I almost like that ending more, but that ending doesn't fit with the original 1899 story.
We're missing some information here.
Yes. So I don't have a final conclusion on what I think happened.
Kenton, I think you do.
I think it was the Wallaces. I think they're behind it.
Okay, that's not what I thought you were going to say.
I don't think it was aliens.
Why not?
Well, they weren't even involved.
How do you know?
Okay.
Let's say this.
Okay,
Let's say
okay.
it was aliens, Kenton.
Okay. Sure.
Who's to say there's not, if there is actually aliens, who's to say that an alien doesn't have the ability to do one simple thing, which would make all this possible? Turn invisible.
Yes.
You're so funny.
Yes. Let's say Mrs. Wallace and them are doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And the invisible alien knew it.
Yeah.
And just kind of played along. Like, oh, yeah, it was them. I saw them doing something.
Like, people are bored constantly. Who's to say an alien who's just here on his, he's checking up, he's invisible, here's these kids doing the thing with the magic book, say that is real, or it isn't real, and then he's just like, I got literally, like you said, 30 days or whatever, as a joke.
Yeah.
But I literally got a few more days till I have to go back.
Yeah.
Let's mess with these kids.
Yeah, and at the end, where he maybe shows his real form, he's all light and white, and then floats way back to the mothership. I think you just solved the mystery, Dylan.
Kenton, look, I'm just saying what I thought you were thinking.
Well, I think that's it. I think that's the answer.
I think it's some sort of mischief caused by some sort of engineering, but that doesn't explain the writing or the blanket. Anyway. I don't know, Kenton.
Okay, I liked your theory. That was
Well, that's great.
great. Okay. Well, I think that ends tonight's episode.
Wow.
Well, thank you, everyone, for paying to listen to this episode.
Yes.
And for supporting our podcast. I think that's it. As always, my name is Kenton Young, and I'm sitting here with my co-host, Dylan Furman. A Patreon exclusive episode of Unsolved Canadian Mysteries.